Hello everyone, in this video I'll be ranking the best Morningstars, Flails, and Maces on a tier list in Baldur's Gate 3. So these are three different weapon types, and what's actually interesting is we have an equal amount of Maces to both Flails and the Morningstars combined. I'll be starting with the Morningstars here, and the first one we got is just the basic old Morningstar. Now, the weapon actions that Morningstars come with are actually really good. So it comes with the Heartstopper, Concussive Smash, and Tenacity. Heartstopper in particular is amazing because it removes an action from the enemy. So if there's a fighter, they're just going to be not hitting you, which is awesome. And also applies chest trauma, which gives disadvantage on constitution saving throw proficiencies. They also have the Concussive Smash, which can possibly daze the target, giving them disadvantage on wisdom saving throws. What's nice about the daze is that means you're more likely to land your hold person. So Morningstars are really good. There's just not many of them. And then they also get tenacity, so if you miss an attack, you deal your strength modifier and damage anyways. What's nice about these two is they deal piercing damage, which can be doubled if you have things like the ballast armor. So Morningstar's pretty good. However, early on, having bludgeoning damage to take care of skeletons seems to be the better option. But regular old Morningstar, 1d8 damage, no enhancement. It's going in the roleplay tier. Don't really need to talk about that. It's the most basic form of the weapon. Next, we got the Morningstar +1. So obviously a +1 enhancement's a little bit better, deals a little more damage, more likely to hit. So it goes C tier. Next, we got Ravenguard Scourer, which is an interesting, or Scourger. So this is an interesting weapon because it gives you Commander Strike. Now, Commander Strike comes from the Battlemaster Fighter, and it's just fair. You're best using it on someone like a Rogue or a Paladin, so you can get sneak attacks or your Paladin's Divine Smite. Commander Strike works a little bit better in Dungeons and Dragons tabletop, where that can, make a bigger difference. But in Baldur's Gate 3, it's just fair. This can be done once per short rest, but it does have a +2 weapon enhancement, so that is quite nice. I'm going to probably put it somewhere in the B tier. This isn't one that I use a whole lot because Commander Strike is something that I never take as a Battlemaster fighter. It's just not good because you use your action, bonus action to tell another target to attack when you could just attack yourself. Much better to do that. Next, we got the Twist of Fortune. This is an interesting Morningstar because it has one of the most unique weapon actions in the entire game. It has what's called Blood Money, which allows you to deal your proficiency bonus in piercing damage per 300 gold that the target has. So what you can do is reverse pickpocket, give them a ton of gold, go up, bonk, and then they deal a ton of damage, and it's piercing damage. Well, this isn't like the most practical use. It's still cool that you can do that with it. And it also has the Twist of Fortune, so when you roll 2 or less with the weapon's damage die, you can re-roll that, take the new result. So this is probably the best Morningstar that we've gotten at this point, so I'm going to put it in the A tier. Blood Money being a really cool action that's just not one that you're going to utilize too often, but still pretty freaking awesome nonetheless that you got something like that. Finally, we got one of the coolest, and I think my favorite Morningstar. This can be used pretty extensively in Act 3 because it's just that good. So what it does, it deals 1d8 +2, and then an additional +1d4 of radiant damage. So this is, if you're a Radiating Orb fan, you're ready for this one, because Radiating Orbs can be stacked off of your radiant damage. In addition, this also, on hit, will apply 1 turn of Radiating Orb. So this gives the enemy Radiating Orb -1 to attack rolls. You can stack it up to 10 times, so that gives the enemy -10 to its attacks, making you pretty hard to hit if you got a high armor class. In addition, this also will apply turned to undead. So if you attack them with it, you can possibly turn the undead. And then it also has a unique weapon action with the Dawn Burst Strike. So it deals additional radiant damage equal to your proficiency bonus. And on hit, it erupts in a 3-meter radius, and they must succeed a Constitution saving throw or be blinded. Blind is awesome because disadvantage on attack rolls is just going to further increase your survivability. So if you have -10 to their attack rolls and they also have disadvantage, you're not getting hit. This is an S tier Morningstar. It's easily the best. Kind of funny that these all end up in these tiers, but I must say the Sacred Star is very, very useful. If you have, let's say, I have a build guide on my channel of a cleric paladin. So the cleric goes up to get the Spirit Guardians, and then also the Paladin has their Divine Smite. They get an extra attack. With that, your Spirit Guardians will give you 4 stacks of Radiating Orb. And then attacking with this weapon, doing a Divine Smite, will give you 6 stacks. So you can just run up and smack and get 10 sets of Radiating Orb on a target. This also pairs well with reverberation because you can use the Boots of Stormy Clamor to give 2 stacks of reverberation. So you can get like a plus 4 stacks of reverberation. It's just incredible. I could talk about this weapon all day. It's very useful. Try it out. Try it out on a Radiating Orb build. You'll have a whole lot of fun with it. Now we're on to the flails. So flails are pretty funky because they're bludgeoning damage. They get concussive smash, so again, the daze, really nice, especially on a caster that wants to apply hold person. They also have weakening strike, target enemy's hands with a non-lethal attack, and possibly inflict weak grip. Weak grip has disadvantage on attack rolls and strength saving throws, so that's awesome. Being able to apply disadvantage is always useful because it just guarantees you're going to be, not guarantees, but you're more likely to get missed by an attack. It also has tenacity, so apply strength modifiers damage. Flail. Regular old flail, probably worse than the piercing one, so I'm going to put it at the lowest of the low. Not something you're going to really ever use, so obviously roleplay tier if you really want to use that and beat the game with it. Now, flail +1, again, it's good. It's a little bit better than that, so I put it in the C tier. I would say it's a little bit less good than the piercing damage from the Morningstar. But then next we got the Mercolite Scourge. So this will deal, there's actually a few of these in Act 2. It deals the regular 1d8 +1 damage, but also it has 1d6 necrotic damage. One thing that I want to mention is when you get this in Act 2, pretty much everything around you is either resistant or immune to necrotic damage. So while that sounds awesome getting an extra 1d6, in reality it's either like a 1d3 or nothing at all. So until you get to Act 3. But I would say it's probably B tier. Getting an extra damage die is nice because you can have some builds that build around that, but just not something that's super useful despite it looking a bit more useful than it really is. Next, we got the Corrosive Flail, which is pretty cool, actually. So, 1d8 +1 damage, but it also has a Corrosive Strike unique weapon action. So, deal additional acid damage equal to your proficiency bonus, and on hit, create a pool of acid around the target, which reduces armor class by 2. That is really nice. I would say that's probably top of B tier, maybe A tier. Yeah, I'd say A tier. What's nice about that is you get you get 2 to reduce the armor class by 2. If you have a target that's really hard to hit, that will make it a little bit easier. Reducing armor class by 2 is awesome. And then if you have something like the Illithid ability to reduce the damage type, this is strength based, unfortunately, so it's going to just reduce their strength. But if you got an ability to like a rogue to attack them with a dexterity based attack to reduce their armor class even further, there's a bit of synergy there. I would say I might say B tier. Corrosive Flail is pretty good, but I don't know if it's got A tier ability. Even the Blood Money here is useful, but not something you're going to use often, so I feel bad even putting in A tier. Could be a B tier option. But next, we got the Defender Flail. This is one that this is the Defender Flail. This is one that I really like. The Defender Flail, if you got a class that's just going to be, let's say Shadowheart, and she's a light cleric, I would recommend giving this to her because it gives you +1 armor class. So this is like the only weapon that'll increase your armor class in the main hand, which is really nice. And then also it reduces incoming bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage by 1. So this just gives a lot of survivability. I would say it's S tier because if you want to have a high armor class, this weapon, if you're not using your weapon often, this is a good one just to give to whoever you got that's not using their weapon often. Usually martial classes will, but let's say you have a wizard, you don't want to use a staff for whatever reason, and you mixed in the Tempest Cleric to get heavy armor. You could apply this to them to give them an even further higher armor class. So if you're someone that really likes those high numbers on your armor class, this is really great. Otherwise, it's probably about A tier. It's a high A tier to S tier. I just think that having increased armor class and reducing damage is pretty good. Especially if, like the way that I played my first playthrough, I didn't know what I was doing. I had a life cleric Shadowheart, and I had her hold this, and it just increased her survivability, so that was nice. Next, we just got the Flail +2. This +2 weapon enhancement, that's pretty nice. Nothing very special about it, so it's probably just it's a B tier or high C tier. Not one you're going to use often when you have other options that can do the same but better. +2 enhancement's great though. And then finally, we have the Flail of the Ages. Actually, I might put Defender Flail top of A tier, because this one here, this is actually a cool weapon. That if the Flail of the Ages comes from Baldur's Gate 2. So this is one of the few weapons that does transfer over, like the Belm. So with this, what this does is, depends on, you can choose a type of damage. So it has the Elemental Age, level 3 bonus action spell that's built in once per long rest. And depending on what type of damage you do, you can either apply the Acid condition, which reduces armor class by 2. You can apply the chilled condition, which is fantastic because what chilled does is it gives vulnerability to cold damage and resistance to fire damage. But vulnerability to cold damage is huge because that means your cone of colds can deal upwards of 128 damage, which is amazing. In addition, if you apply wet to the target, they become frozen, when they become frozen, they get a weakness to bludgeoning damage, so it all comes around full circle. This is incredible. It also can apply the burning condition to the target, but 1d8 plus, it only has a +1, but being able to apply chilled on a weapon is incredibly powerful. This pairs well, like, let's say you got a Tempest cleric and you don't know what to give it this, because then you can apply the chilled condition, and then you can freeze the target. Like, it just pairs very well with a sorcerer or wizard. So I'd have to say it's definitely an S tier. Flail of the Ages comes from Baldur's Gate 2. It's pretty good. Next, we got the Maces. Now, I'm not going to start with the Blood of Lathander. We'll leave that for the finale. Now, the regular old Mace is just 1d6 damage. So again, not great. It's a simple weapon, so it actually deals less damage than a Flail. So probably the lowest of low. But, there is also the Diva Mace, which looks like this. Can't normally get it, but what the Diva Mace does is it does 1d6 bludgeoning damage, whatever. On top of that, it does 4d8 of radiant damage. So the Diva Mace is easy SSS plus tier, but not normally acquired, so can't really put that on here. Next, we got the Ceremonial Mace. This is a 1d6 +1, so it's yeah, a little bit better. Or this is also a Mace +1. Both of them look the same, but have a different name. So yeah, it's probably the weakest of these. These are simple weapons. Maces are simple weapons, so the Morningstars and Flails are a little bit higher. They're martial weapons, making them deal a little bit more damage. Next, we got the Leviatar's Scourge, which is an interesting one. You can get this in Act 1. So this deals 1d6 bludgeoning and 1d6 necrotic damage, which is a little bit nicer because you get a little extra damage die. Act 1 doesn't have everything resist necrotic like Act 2 does, so that's great. It also gives you the Willing Whip, so grants resistance to necrotic damage and deals an additional 1d6 necrotic to everyone nearby, including the wearer. So it will hurt you. I would have to say it's probably C tier. Could be fun if you wanted to use it. It actually might be, I'll put it in the roleplay tier because this could be something you could roleplay with. It's not amazing. Having addiction, somewhere C to roleplay. It's not going to be one you use often. Especially when Act 1, there's something like the Blood of Lathander, which is one of the best weapons in the game. Yeah, you're typically not going to get a lot of I'll put it roleplay because, yeah, it's good for roleplaying, I guess. Next, we have the Adamantine Mace, which is pretty solid, all things considered. It has the Diamond's Bane, so if this hits an object, it's always going to be a critical. So good for busting down chests and things like that, or if you just want to destroy things. There is some abilities that'll proc on destroying items, so that could be useful for that, I guess. But it also gives this weapon ignores resistance to bludgeoning damage, so this is a solid one. The Adamantine Mace is pretty good for that reason. I'd probably put it right about there. Ignoring resistance to damages is pretty solid, not gonna lie, because if they're taking half damage, they'll now take full normal damage from this. So it just doubles your damage output if they're resistant to it. And it's a 1d6 +1, so it's a little bit better than the others, but just ignoring resistances is pretty huge. So yeah. Next, we got the Cyanide, which is an interesting one. It has the Cyanide's Fire, so once per short rest, you can encase a target and fairy fire for 2 turns if you miss an attack against it, giving you advantage on attack rolls against them. So that's pretty nice. I'd probably say it's about B tier. It's not one you're going to use often. It has the +1 enhancement, so that's good. And giving an advantage on attacks if you miss is pretty solid because, yeah, missing sucks, and being able to avoid that by any cost, always a good thing. Next, we got the Infernal Mace, which is... this is a funky bunch. So 1d6 +2 damage, and it also on hit, the affected entity deals an additional 3 poison damage and can potentially poison the target. Poison damage is the most resisted damage type in the game, so that's not amazing, but being able to apply that is pretty nice. Just any extra damage rider, and it's not like it's a 1d4 of poison, it's flat out 3 poison damage, so I would say it's probably about B tier. Not one you're going to use often, but it's nice to have extra damage at any means necessary. So that's good. And it can possibly poison the target, and poison's awesome because it suffers disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks. So disadvantage on attack rolls, something we always like. Poison, yeah, I would say probably it could go up a little bit, maybe A tier if you really like that. But yeah, we'll go with that there. Next, we got Mace +2. Again, +2 weapon enhancement's awesome. It's just right beside that one there. It's like a worse version of the Infernal Mace because it doesn't deal the additional poison damage. So you're better off just going with that one over just a regular Mace +2. Next, we got the Shattered Flail. This is a funky one because it's a 1d6 +2 damage, but also hitting an enemy with this weapon heals the user for 1d6 health points. And I want to mention a little something that someone notified me of. So any of these weapons that'll heal you, if you use the Wound Closure Amulet, you're going to get 6 health back every time you attack with it. So if you got a fighter, 6 times the 6 attacks they can do, that's 36 health back. And if they got haste, they can hit 9 times, I guess 10 times total with a bonus action attack. So, yeah, if you take the War Cleric 1 level with 11 levels of fighter, that is 10 attacks for a maximum of 60 health back. But you can go mad if you don't continue hitting an enemy every turn. So with this, you have to bonk. You got no choice. You got to keep hitting people. Because if you become mad, you just start attacking people at random. So you can attack your own teammates. I think this is a pretty solid one. I'm going to put it in the A tier because the healing's nice, but you just have to become an offensive beast with this weapon. It could be B tier because not a lot of... Typically, if you get... I'd say probably B tier. This is a tough one. Someone might not like this choice, but I'm going to put it A tier because the healing's pretty nice. But you might... typically people that are using maces are going to also have the ability to use something better. So... yeah, well, the 1d6 is kind of holding it back a little bit. I'll put it A tier, though, because the healing's nice. I just don't want to have the B tier stack too high, even though this is like a regular bell curve look. But next, we got the... you know what? We'll put a B tier. I'll put it somewhere around there. Next, we got the Handmaiden's Mace. So you get this from Viconia Devere. It's a pretty good one, too. It does 1d6 +2, and then it also deals an additional 1d6 poison damage. So any little damage helps. It's nice. But on top of that, it also sets the wearer's strength score to 18. So, yeah, A tier. A stat stick is useful. So, if you have someone that needs to carry a little bit more, throw them this, and they'll be able to carry a bit more. If you got Gale, who's just, your full party's full of items, and you can send things to camp. I just want to remind everyone of that. But increasing your strength, maybe you need to jump a little bit further. Being able to change your strength is nice. There's also the stick that you can get in Act 1 that does a little bit higher, but it deals a decent bit of damage. Not one you're going to use often, but it's nice. And finally, we got the Devotee's Mace and the Blood of Lathander. So, the Devotee's Mace deals 1d6 +3, and then an additional 1d8 of radiant damage. And on top of all of that, it also has the Healing Incense Aura, a bonus action which allows you to regain 1d4 health points at the start of your turn for 10 turns. So, that's nice. Once per long rest, but I would say it's S tier. Good on a mage or a cleric. So you get this for this is the special item that you get from using your Arm Thy Servant from the Divine Intervention. Sorry, I was mumbling that. So this is the special level 10 cleric spell. I personally use it during the Viconia fight to get a little extra damage or a heal in because it's really useful just for that purpose. But if you really want the weapon, it's not bad. But I just think that the Blood of Lathander, the next weapon, does things a little bit better. So with this, it has Lathander's Blessing. Once per long rest, when your health points are reduced to 0, you regain 2d6 health points, and allies within 9 meters also regain 1d6 health points. So it's basically just a self-revive. Very nice to have. In addition, also has Lathander's Light, shed a holy light in 6-meter radius. In combat, fiends and undead standing in the light are blinded unless they succeed a DC 14 Constitution saving throw. So that's great in Act 2. You get it in Act 1. This is easily the best weapon on this list because the benefits are just so high. The Diva's Mace would be even higher, but that's not a normally accessible item. And you also get a level 6 Sunbeam spell. So this is the earliest you can get a level 6 spell. Incredible. And it deals radiant damage. So it goes with the Radiating Orb builds. I typically use the Blood of Lathander, which surprisingly looks like a Morningstar. It's got the spikes, but it's not. It's I like the Sacred Star, but the Blood of Lathander I think has better benefits, and you get an Act 1. I would say it's probably the best weapon on this list. It's extremely useful. So there it is. There's the best weapons, or the best Flails, Morningstars, and Maces in Baldur's Gate 3 ranked on a tier list. This is a request, so if you have a request too, please leave a comment below. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video fun, please hit the subscribe button below, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.